And hey, good morning and welcome to Two Men and a Bible. I am your co-host, Ren Schuffman, along with my partner in not crime, Justin Heckel. I just wanted to say I'm kind of losing my voice, getting my voice back from being on vacation last week. And so I got that deep, raspy voice, so I figured I could record a new introduction to Two Men and a Bible. Welcome to Two Men and a Bible, where we're barely men. More like two boys.
Two boys with beards.
Two boys with beards talking about the Bible. That's probably more accurate. I apologize that we are late. Apparently, Justin badmouthed AI while he's waiting for his computer to load, and it attacked him. That's why his beard is shorter than normal. It literally just it was a close shave.
It was a close shave.
It was a close shave. So welcome, everybody. Join in. Let us know in the comments where you are watching this broadcast from. We're excited to have you. If you don't know about Two Dudes and a Bible, this is the broadcast where we talk about Jesus, and we do it in a lighthearted morning show kind of way so we can have some fun and grow together. Justin, how's your week been?
It's been really good, but it's been really cold. Oh, my goodness. I mean, you guys got it cold down there compared to normal, right?
We were at 1, and that doesn't happen much in Oklahoma. 1.
Yeah, you were at 1. So with wind chill, we were down to -40.
Tell me again why you chose to live in South Dakota.
Because when there's some element of survival of the fittest, it keeps some of the people that you don't like away.
I will concede that you're the fittest. I'll concede it. It's not even a problem. Look, I'm sorry if you're watching on here. Tell us where you're watching from. Nobody on here is watching from South Dakota because they're trying to desperately stay warm. Okay, that's what they're doing right now. And I'll say it. What I've said to you before is that nobody moves to South Dakota. What happens is your car breaks down while you're driving through South Dakota, and you build a shelter around it to survive, and that becomes your house. And then you live there because you can't.
Like, here we are.
Fix the car. What happened? I broke down here, and I just built this wooden thing around my car.
We had a little bit of time of shoveling, and I'm telling you what, just 10 minutes of driving, and I had socks and shoes, I had gloves on, everything. I'm in my van, and yet at the same time, my fingers hurt the way that, it was so cold, my fingers hurt within 10 minutes of driving in my van. It was that bad. But I did make a lot of turkey jerky. So I like that. I made a lot of turkey jerky. I was in here.
You don't need to turn the meat into jerky in -40 degree weather. It stays kept. You realize that outside is twice as cold as your freezer. You can open your freezer and give it a break.
That is a good thing. It's like you can have twice as much food on hand. At least
you just throw things outside when you come home from the grocery store.
Yeah, you don't even bother putting it away. You're just like, whoop.
No, you don't even unload them from the car. You just leave the car door open. So, all right. So now that we know that Justin is a little bit unhinged for being in -50 degree weather, it is very good for you in short bursts. Okay. Penny said she's breaking ice in Mustang. They already sent me a picture of their pool frozen over, and they busted an ice hole, and they're like,
oh man,
ice party at my house. So we're going to go over there and cold plunge. So I'm a little bit crazy that way too. So I'm in it, but let's talk about what we want to talk about today. Let's get into a little bit of about the Word of God today. One of the things we want to talk about is exactly kind of why we're even on this podcast. I think why this even happened. This podcast happened out of just Justin and I having a deep relationship, one where we were real, we were raw, but one that came from just ironing, sharpening iron, discipleship, about us being there for each other and just giving sound advice. Justin became my friend, and he would call me for ministry advice, and we would just talk out of relationship with not a scheduled service, not a prepared sermon. And because of that relationship, it's helped navigate lots of seasons of ministries, and it's helped us to have someone to walk with us through seasons of ministry and discipleship. I think discipleship looks a lot different than maybe what the church model has built. And so let me say this, is that we've been trying very hard in the church to grow models of discipleship, right? We have all these different models of discipleship. And so I think just kind of talk about like how it is that Justin and I have been very effective in raising people up in the kingdom of God, the way we've done it. Not how to get a giant platform and preach in front of thousands of people, but actually raise people up to maturity.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of legitimate itinerant ministries. I don't want to discount itinerant ministers that are called to itinerant, because you had one on last week who has a hilarious voice but wants to get super serious.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, look at a lot of, well, you do it too, but look at a lot of what Ellie and I have done over the years as itinerant ministry. And I'd say this, itinerant ministers to do things well, in my opinion, what they are to do is to build relationships with local ministers and help them in the discipleship process.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's define itinerant, because some people are going, I don't know what that means. Itinerant, pastors who don't pastor a church, but they travel around speaking. Itinerant. They have an itinerary. They go places and they speak places. They don't they don't have a home base of raising people up. That's itinerant. And so I think there are good ones out there, but I think a lot of the itinerant ministers, the reason why they're itinerant ministers, I'll be honest, is because they don't know how to raise people up. They can't grow local churches. They can't raise people up. Some of them are not called to do that. But I think there's a big chunk of them, they want to preach, but they can't disciple. And so we want to kind of give you some wisdom on how to disciple here, okay? And so a little bit about how to organically disciple, because I think both Justin and I have done it really well. And here's the first thing I want to say is that discipleship doesn't look like what you think it does. Now, in ancient biblical culture around the time of Jesus, a lot of people don't understand why Jesus was or they just think it's a story. Jesus is 12 years old. He's at the temple, and it says that the Pharisees, that the priests are amazed with him. Okay. They're listening to him speak, and they're just floored by what he's coming up with. And people are like, oh, that's cool. He just started talking at the temple and they were all listening. No, he's 12 years old. He's about to turn 13. He's about to be bar mitzvahed. Okay. He's about to go through the act of becoming an adult. 13 is the adult. So he's being tested at 12. This is his moment of, it makes the most sense to assume he's being tested at 12, interviewed, so to speak, to see if any of the rabbis want to pick him up. As a disciple. So the rabbis would go through and find the best pupils, the brightest pupils, and they would claim those pupils. They would basically recruit them like Harvard does top students in a high school. That's very much what they did. And if you weren't chosen by a rabbi to be his disciple, then you began to work in a trade. We see Jesus pick all disciples that were already working in a trade, which means they were the guys that were passed up by other rabbis. No rabbis picked them up. Okay, so they didn't make the draft. They're walk-ons for the sports guys on here, right? They're walk-ons. They're the Jalen Hurts, like what we had here at OU, and they walked on. And so I might be getting my football. Someone's going to correct me. I'm like Jalen Hurts or Mayfield. I can't remember now. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. All the good quarterbacks in the NFL come from OU anyway. So just whatever.
Jesus is B team.
There you go. That's exactly what it is. So you have them being discipled by, they pick the brightest and the best, but Jesus doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. In fact, Jesus is not selected. We see Jesus go on to be a carpenter, which means either he turned down the selection or he was not selected. Now, he wasn't bright enough. The scripture clearly tells us that they were amazed at what he taught. So we know he was bright enough to be selected. The reality is he might have been too bright to be selected. The job of a rabbi, this was actually how they raised up disciples, and many people don't know this. The job of a rabbi was to have you go with them everywhere they went, to stay with them and raise that person up until that disciple looked as much like you, talked as much like you, acted as much like you as you possibly could get, till they look like a son. And when they looked like you, then you would release them into ministry and say, now go. You would send them once they began to look like you. That was the way it happened. All right. So, but I would just want to say this is, here's my question. The disciples that Jesus picked, if they were here today and they were applying for a job at the local mega church, would they be qualified for ministry? Would today's church ever hire any of just the 12? Remember, there are more than 12, but just the main 12. So I found this letter that I'd like to read to you from the Jordan Management Consultants of Jerusalem on whether or not they would hire the 12 disciples. And it says, to Jesus, son of Joseph, woodcrafter's carpenter shop, Nazareth, 25922, from the Jordan Management Consultants. Dear sir, thank you for submitting your resumes of the 12 men you have picked for managerial positions in your new organization. All of them have now taken our battery of tests. We have not only run the results through our computer, but also arranged personal interviews for each of them with our psychologists and vocational aptitude consultants. The profiles of all tests are included, and you will want to study each of them carefully. As part of our service, we make some general comments for your guidance, much as an auditor will include some general statements. This is given as a result of staff consultation and comes without any additional fees. It is the staff opinion that most of your nominees are lacking in background, education, and vocational aptitude for the types of enterprise you are undertaking. They do not have the team concept. We would recommend that you continue your search for persons of experience in managerial ability and proven capability. Simon Peter is emotionally unstable and given to fits of temper. Andrew has absolutely no qualities of leadership. The two brothers, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, place personal interest above company loyalty. Thomas demonstrates a questioning attitude that would tend to undermine morale. We feel that it is our duty to tell you that Matthew has been blacklisted by the Greater Jerusalem Better Business Bureau. James, the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, definitely have radical leanings, and they both registered a high score on the manic depressive scale. One of the candidates, however, shows great potential. He is a man of ability and resourcefulness, meets people well, has a keen business mind, and has contacts in high places. He is highly motivated, ambitious, and responsible. We recommend Judas Iscariot as your control and right-hand man. All other profiles are self-explanatory. We wish you every success in your new venture. Sincerely, the Jordan Management Consultants. All right. All right. So if you look at these, guys, right, they've taken all the aptitude tests. We know what personality they register as. We know what color their personality test is. They've taken all their aptitude tests and they don't qualify, which is probably what happened to us.
Yeah.
I have, literally, Jesus picks the least of these. Jesus picks, and throughout the whole Bible, let's talk about the Bible. Jesus picks people who are unqualified or underqualified all the time. I know the saying is right. He qualifies the called. He qualifies the called. Moses, this dude can't even speak right. He can't even communicate right, to the point that the only way that God gets him to go is by sending Aaron to communicate for him. You know, can you imagine him in front of Pharaoh going to his brother, going, tell Pharaoh, let my people go. He actually didn't say that over and over to Pharaoh over the course of days. It was just he was muttering that many times. So right, so right, he's like right, he can't talk right.
Yeah.
He's scared to talk in front of people, yet God uses him to free a nation. Samson definitely has an obedience problem. David has a lust problem. Saul has a pride problem. Right, we see all of this. Thomas has a doubting problem. Peter has a trusting problem. Like we see all of these people in the Bible over. In fact, Joseph is our one example of a guy we look at and go, I don't see a problem. In fact, we talk about it. Well, Joseph doesn't seem to really have a problem at all. And he stands out as a beacon of hope. You could go through life and not have a problem. And God could pick you if you don't have any problem. Because the other side of it is we could start thinking, well, we need to have a few more problems for God to pick us.
Right. It's similar to the always going after, never going after the celebrities when people are like, oh, all these people who try to help celebrities. And it's like, man, Jesus, just because it says he went to the poor doesn't mean he still helped centurions, and rich people. Like it talks about rich people and centurions that he helped and that the apostles helped. It's just that nobody else wanted to go to the poor because it didn't benefit their ministry.
Why ain't that the truth? So Jesus picks these disciples. So what does it look like to disciple? What does it actually look like to raise someone up? Let me tell you what. The reason why discipleship is not done well, in my opinion, in the church is because it's too messy for most.
Yeah.
It's too messy for most. And most people can't deal with the person's mess before they become a message. And I've dealt with people. So one of the things that I do, and Justin will talk a little bit about what he does, but one of the things that I do to raise up disciples is I believe firmly in the model of Jesus, which means everywhere I go, my people go with me. Those people I'm raising up go with me. If you won't stay next to me, I will not raise you up. I will not disciple you if I can't have your time, if you can't give me that time. And so one of the core things with Jesus is Jesus did a lot of ministry, but the disciples were with him everywhere. Mm-hmm. As soon as the meetings were over, he spent more time. So imagine you've just preached to 5,000 people. Way more than that, excuse me. It's probably more like 15,000 people when you count the women and children. But you add it up, you've preached before thousands of people, you put on this giant thing, and he didn't just like get up on a rock and start preaching. Like it was probably more well organized than that. It was some of it was spontaneous, but some of them were prepared. And so there's a lot that's going into that. There's a lot that's happening in order to make that service happen. And when they're done, Jesus takes the disciples aside and he begins to explain to them more deeply about what he was talking about. So not only does he have this long day doing this giant crusade for thousands of people, but then he spends extra time with his disciples digging in deeper. And so my model has been, I take a team of ministers with me everywhere I go. I take my team with me. They help me minister, administrate and minister. And then when we're done, we have moments where we sit down, we break down what happened during the day. We break down about what went well, what went badly, what was moving, what did God do in the service. We talk about it more deeply and richly. And we'll do that sometimes till 1 a.m, 2 a.m. If we get done late, we continue late, so that I'm always pouring into them and raising them up. And what I found is that when I take someone on a ministry trip with me and I pour into them, not just you get to go and watch me. There's a lot of ministry trips where you can sign up for ministries and like go to a foreign country, but you don't have a lot of interaction with the main leadership, even though you're there. But really intentionally pouring into them, what I find is what would normally take a year or two in church of raising them up intentionally has been shortcut to just the one trip. So I can literally probably cut 6 months off of trying to raise someone up into literally 6 months and raise someone off by one trip. And so here's the math for you, Justin. Here's the math. If you go to church, the average church in America, the sermon's about 30 minutes or so. Okay. So at my church, just triple that number. It's no problem. But if you go to church every year, 52 weeks a year, faithfully, you never miss, you're never sick, you don't go on vacation, and you're there every Sunday, you have gotten 24 hours of biblical training. 24 hours. How many times have you and I accidentally spent 8 hours on the phone?
Yeah.
Right? Till your wife's like, you don't love me. You just love Ren. And I'm like, so get over it.
You have a family right here. No,
yeah. The kids are like, you only want to play with Ren. Daddy, go away. I have my friend now. So, but we'll spend time, like we spend, that's 3 of those long conversations. Let me put that in perspective. If you work a job for 8 hours, that's 3 days of training. Are any of you prepared to take on your job after 3 days of training? That's a full year in the ministry. Okay. So, let's fast forward 10 years. You've been doing that for 10 years. You go on Sunday morning, you listen to the sermon. After 10 years, you've had 1 month of biblical training at 8-hour shifts. 1 month of 8-hour shifts. I was at a restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and a waitress came up to me and she was kind of trying to figure out some things. And she goes, I apologize. I've only been here a month. Like I still got to learn how to do that. So it's a waitress job. We're not talking about NASA. Okay. We're not talking about the hardest job, and I'm not diminishing waitress jobs, but it's not the most difficult educate. It's not a PhD job. Okay. And after a month at that job, 8 hours each day, she still did not know how to do that job effectively yet. And was still learning. Yet after 10 years of biblical training in the church, it's equivalent to the same thing. So that's the math. I've been a Christian for 10 years, going to church faithfully, and I never took a vacation. And you only have a month of biblical training. It's not enough. It doesn't work. And we wonder why the church is seriously biblically uneducated, broken, and not winning.
Yeah, come on.
So that's how I take people. What about you?
So for me, for those of you who don't know, I work at a homeless shelter, and that's where a large part of our discipleship takes place. And we've had guys come out of being homeless and not even being Christians to becoming Christians and completely turning their life around after really crazy circumstances for their entire life. And so it's been amazing. But the crazy part is this, is that a lot of it is placing things in people's laps. It's gauging if people are interested. I mean, even if they're asking a question or whatever, it's like, wow, they're showing interest in the Lord. I'm going to hand something off to them to see how they handle that. And then it's like, as they keep doing things, I just keep handing more off to them. And here's the key to it, to me, is it doesn't matter to me if they do it perfectly or not. It matters to me the heart that they do it with. Because if they will do it with a faithful heart, so like we have a guy who right now, the main thing he does, he's 61 years old. He came out of prison and selling drugs his whole life and doing drugs. And he's been with us probably close to a year now. And he is faithful every day to collect the papers out of the prayer request box. And he gathers up guys and they go into the chapel together and they pray every day for people who have put prayer requests into the prayer request box. This is a guy who had no concept of following Jesus a year ago, and it's like, but he is faithful to doing that, and he comes up all the time with questions, but it started because he would come up and go, what does this word mean in the Bible? What's anointed mean? And things like that. It just started with, you have questions about what the Lord says. You have questions about what the word says. And so I'm just watching guys, and it's a little bit different than a typical church setting, right? Because, not everybody who's there is there because they want the Lord. what you're doing is you're keeping your eyes out for the ones that do want the Lord, and you're trying to pull them along a little bit and seeing if they take that, and then you're going, okay, here's a little bit more, and you just keep doing that. But here's the funny part about it to me is, so we do the same thing with our staff. A lot of our staff have come out of similar situations as what our guests are going through, right? And things can get heated in a homeless shelter. I don't know if you know that, but
that's why you've talked about forever, right? Creating a TV show called Sheltered.
Oh, 100%.
Where it's just like The Office, but like running a homeless shelter, because the stories that come out of that shelter are crazy.
It's gold. It is absolute gold.
And the staff are actual real people, but they seem like they were written in a comedy room, in a comedy writer's room.
Absolutely.
I've been there. I know.
It's amazing. But
the guy that runs the place is named after a fruit, like
pineapple.
He's probably watching right now. Love you, pineapple.
He is probably watching right now. He does. I'll come in and he'll be like, so I was watching your guys' podcast.
We love you, pineapple.
Yeah, and Mikhail used to work there. Mikhail's on watching right now. He used to work there. And the thing is that a lot of them are coming out of similar situations. It can get heated in there though. And the funny part is that most people who come into our shelter, it's the Union Gospel Mission, and most people who come in are like, I would never think a homeless shelter would be like this. For the most part, you walk in and it is calm and chilled out. Guys are reading their Bibles. You got guys like, we have a full workout area, like
a legit gym.
A legit gym in that place. We have a legit chapel in that place. Like, it is a legit sanctuary.
It's not a chapel. The chapel, it has an occupancy rating of 975 people. It's a mega church. It's great. It's because it's -40 outside. That's the trade-off.
And so, like, but there are times, guys come in and they have their choice words to throw at our staff because maybe they can't do whatever they want to. It's usually people from the outside, the people who come in and be part of the community in there. And they're like, I'm just trying to get through this chaotic part of my life. Our goal is to give them peace in the middle of their chaos, and it's like, while you're in a chaotic place of life, this is a place you can come and not have extra chaos thrown on it. And so, so they come in, but some of the people from outside, especially, can throw some choice words at our guys. They can, sometimes throw something or whatever. And every now and then we have guys that react a little bit harshly back. And it's just funny to me because they'll be like, I can't believe you guys are Christians. You just reacted that way to me. And it's like, you can't believe that guy reacted to you that way because after you cussed him out and threw something at him, but the thing is I'm like, it's just funny to me because when people are like, I can't believe that they call themselves Christians, I'm like, you do understand that Jesus's disciples wanted to kill a whole city for not listening to him, right? James and John were like, can we call fire down from heaven on them? I'm like, so it is not that much different. And sometimes people struggle coming into our team because their idea of being a Christian and following Christ is controlling everything. That guy's not acting right. I need to control it.
So you just, they come in and they just have to go to one service a week and they get all better, right? That's how you disciple them?
Oh no. Like, okay. So we do have a structure to it. So let me clarify that for our guests.
Because we're talking about what does it look like to actually disciple someone. So,
yes.
Intentionally disciple them. Is 1 week enough at Sunday enough? Like, does that work?
And see, this is the kicker for me. Okay. So let me walk you through what we do for guests who come in is that, if they want to be part of the discipleship program, especially, this is the full shebang. They have chapel every night, 7:00. You got to be there. Their day starts and they have a chore to do and stuff like that. But for the discipleship program, they do devotions between 7 and 9 every morning. They need to spend 40 minutes reading whatever we've given them out of. We usually give them about 4 to 5 chapters out of the Bible that they follow for a good 4 to 5 months. And so they follow this reading list, and they're just reading the Bible. That's it. They're reading the Bible and spending time with the Lord and journaling what they're talking about with the Lord and journaling what sticks out to them in the Bible. That's it. That's their morning. And then 10 o'clock, we either have a Bible class, which is the Purple Book, which I think you pointed me to. Right? You use the Purple Book as well, or you have, or something like that.
Yeah.
So we use the Purple Book for a Bible class. We also have a class called Core Discipleship, which is stuff that basically these are the key lessons to me. It takes 3 months, 2 times a week for us to get through. And it's all about, how do I walk as a mature follower of Christ? How do I grow emotionally and spiritually? And I'm going to tell you, I've watched more guys totally grab onto I want Jesus because of that class. Because we teach it from a total standpoint of everything comes back to what is the reality of the world you live in, and pointing to how the Bible already says that. So we have Bible class, a core discipleship class, and a cultivating the presence of God class. He's asking, what is the Purple Book? The Purple Book is it's a simple book that has 12 chapters with 2 topics per chapter. So it'll say like sin and salvation, lordship and obedience, the Holy Spirit and the spiritual gifts. And so each chapter has 2 topics that it covers together. And all it really does is it goes through and says, go check out this scripture. And then it asks you, what does that scripture tell you about this? And so the great part about it for us is that it's nobody's spin on what does the Bible say, nobody's take, nobody's doctrine. It's just straight up, what does the scripture say about these topics?
Yeah. Let me clarify differently. If you're wondering what the name of the book is, it's the Purple Book.
It is called the Purple Book.
Yeah, he's not just saying there's a book that's purple.
Yeah. It is.
You have to clarify that. The Purple Book. Well, what book? I need to look this book up. Okay, I would also recommend The Basics in 21 Days by my friend Ben Williams.
Totally.
Fantastic discipleship book. But like beyond just what's the materials that we use, I want you to catch something beyond just the materials that we use. It's not even you don't have to, I need to get this material and that material. Yes, these are good materials. They will very much help you be intentional. And maybe if you don't, you're not sure what to do, but the reality is the time you spend with them authentically living out. Listen to me, everyone. The time you spend with 100%. People authentically living out your Christian faith in front of them, more is caught than taught. And this is what catch that.
This is what I tell everybody in all those classes. Everything we talk about, as far as the material goes, the only reason we're throwing that out there is a springboard for conversation to happen. So that guys go, well, but this has happened in my life. That's what I love. It's not going through the curriculum that I love. What? It's getting into the conversation of, but in my life, I've been dealing with this. And it's like, right, let's talk about that.
I know for a fact that Justin has impacted more people through them watching him in conflict resolution. They've learned more about anger management and conflict resolution and living at peace with other people while not being a pushover. Peace and pushover are 2 different things. And he's taught people more about conflict resolution, not by sitting down and having a 12 steps to conflict resolution course, but just them literally watching somebody at the shelter want to swing on him and him have to escort them out, and how he handles that situation. Well, the other guys are about ready to get into a shanking war. Like you got an employee and a person there, and they're about ready to shank each other. They're ready to go to blows, and Justin will come along and peacefully resolve the thing and make the person think it was their idea. And so they literally watch him resolve that, either that or he'll put the fear of God in them. So but they watch him resolve that, and they learn more from that. So I'm not going to tell the whole story now. If you want to hear the whole story about how I became a Belizean bandito in Belize last week, you'll have to tune into my Sunday morning service, because I'm going to share the story about the police and me in the back of the police truck, and how I became known on the cruise ship as the bearded, bearded. All four of us became known as the bearded, bearded Belizean Banditos, or the bearded mafia to some. We had people all over the ship approaching us to talk about us and what the rumors they had heard about us. Some of the rumors got wild. It was quite extensive. But my people, we had a situation in Belize where the police were involved. Okay. And it took up half of our day. It was a big thing. And everybody was bummed out. Us four guys that went, it was stressful. It was a hard day. And in the course of it, while what was stressful and hard, the end result is they got to see what it looked like for their pastor to be their shepherd. They got to see what it looked like. And I remember in particular this big incident where I was kind of the point of it. I took over, I pushed them kind of to the side, and I was defending them the entire time we were in Belize dealing with this issue with these police officers. And I'm not going to tell you the good or the bad or what side we were on it. You got to tune in later. So that's just my hook for that. So you guys are like, what happened? Did you get arrested? Dun, dun, dun. To be continued. All right. But you're right. Who got arrested? Did somebody get arrested? Did nobody get arrested? All I know is there was police, and we ended up at the police station. That's what
right now. There are tons of posts going out. Did you hear Pastor Ryan got arrested?
Right. Yeah. It's going to be the big thing. Like, these pastors, they're wolves in sheep's like, what's going to be. He goes on vacation, gets arrested. I'm sure we know what he did. You don't know nothing. Okay. You don't know. I wouldn't tell the story. But what happened was one of my people asked me this. They said, as this was all happening, they pulled me aside when it was ending, and they said, Pastor, what does it look like to love people in the midst of something like this, where you're literally like roaring and warring? I wasn't cussing, I wasn't yelling, I wasn't screaming. I don't have anything I need to tell Jesus I'm sorry for losing my mind. I never lost my peace, but I did forcefully defend. And so I'll give you this little bit of it. I forcefully defended the three people that were with me. Why? Because I am their pastor. I was on vacation, so technically, like, they weren't supposed to call me pastor or anything, and it was hard for them. But I'm like, just call me my name. And they're like, this is really weird. And but I'm like, I'm on vacation. Please don't out me and make me pray for everyone. Now, we had a Holy Ghost. The encounters we had on that cruise ship, I'm going to tell the stories of. We literally turned the cruise ship into church. That's literally awesome. Happened. We literally turned the cruise ship into a church service. That's not a joke. And it was incredible. But on this day, I had warred for them, and they said, what does it look like to see you war like that? I said, look, I'm your pastor. My job as a shepherd is to stop wolves from biting you. It is not love for me to allow the wolves to bite you and sacrifice you out of a concept of false love. For me to love the wolf while you're being torn to shreds is not me loving you. You're the one that God put and gave me to love. And it's important that I protect you as I raise you up. And they were like, wow. And I said, so my protection of you comes first before I love on a wolf. And so I wasn't unkind. I just wasn't going to allow a false identity of love to cause my people to be bitten.
Yes.
That was not going to happen. You don't get to hurt them. You don't get to bully them. You don't get to come against them. I will be the first martyr. I'll be the first one. You have to go through me before you bite them. So they were biting me. That's what happened. Is I took all the bites. I was the one engaged in the battle back and forth. You're not biting a single one of them. They were able to stand behind me and say nothing in defense of themselves. And literally, I defended the whole thing until I needed them to validate what I was saying. Is that true? And they go, yes, that's true. And I'm like, okay, I got this. I defended them. I was the voice. I was the one. I was the attorney in the situation, if that makes sense. I was the one handling this thing. I'm like, I will handle this. And you know what I got from that? of what discipleship looks like, it means that I not only am in your battles, but like Jesus, he took our battles.
Yeah.
And as the shepherd, I got in there and I took the blows. I took the fight. The fight was mine. The battle belongs to the Lord. That's what he said. And if you're going to disciple someone, don't just, there's too many people starting mentoring programs at $9.99 a month. There's too many people charging for mentoring programs, but you're not in my fight.
Right. Well, let me say
you're not
this.
discipling me if you don't battle with me.
Because you start telling that story, and I'm like, man, I had the same thing over the weekend. We're chilling out. We're going literally. We're chilling out here in South Dakota, and it's below zero. So we're just trying to stay inside. My guys call and say, hey, we got this going on over here. And so I start getting ready to go out. Here's my point with it, because I go over to handle something, but I get back and my wife is all like, oh my goodness. I'm like, what? She's like, there's just something about you when you get rid. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't think I changed demeanor at all.
She thought you were cute.
She did. She was like, listen, my husband,
my husband will beat up your husband.
but the thing is to me, I'm thinking I haven't changed. I'm just putting on my stuff and going. And I could tell by people's looks when I got there that they were like, oh, he's here to do business. I could tell that too. But the thing is this, when you do that as someone discipling others, when you do that as a pastor, other people who have not claimed you as their pastor go, I want that guy as my pastor. I want that lady as my pastor. They're like, because that lets them know I could grow with that person because I'm not going to be thrown under the bus. I could grow with that person because that person's going to defend me if I do anything wrong. Like, that person will have my best interest at heart, and they're willing to put themselves in the middle of it for me.
When I was in Kenya, same thing happened. The Pastor Chas just commented. But when I was in Kenya, we were going through a marketplace. We were looking for some handmade Kenyan African goods that we could take back to Raise for Missions and buy. And when we went to this marketplace that's particularly kind of wholesale Kenyan. It's not for tourists. So when the Mzungus, the white people, came into there, everyone was like, money. Like, they were like, money. And they started they were like, oh my gosh, like, let's get them. And so they started following us all around. They started harassing us, basically. Pastor Isaac got into a fight with like one of them. They were yelling and screaming in Swahili. So it just, and we're like, I don't know what's happening. But I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew that this man was causing such a problem that Pastor Isaac was now standing with his chest out and authoritative defending us. So I went out there and I put my chest out, and we were two big-chested men with our chest out, and we were warring against this guy, and I was just going booga, 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 because I don't know what they don't, right? So no, they speak English. So I was like, hey, you need to back up, and you need to back up right now. And I protected the ladies that were with me. I protected the church people that were with me. And Pastor Isaac did the same thing. He was, Pastor Isaac is like barely 5 foot. No, he's a little taller than that, but he's like 5'4". And so he's not a very big man. So this guy was much bigger than him, and he's in his face and I'm in his face. And I'm like, you're not going to do that. They were like pulling on our people. They were yelling at our people to come buy stuff from them. They were pulling on them. It became dangerous. And when that danger kicked up, I jumped into ferocious pastor mode, and I was defending my people. And if you're going to be intentional about discipling, if you're a leader on here and you're like, I want people to follow me, stop trying to get everyone to follow you and start raising people up. Yeah. Say, I want to raise people up. Everybody wants followers. Nobody wants to do the work that comes with that. And so you want people to tune into your ministry. You want people to join your mentorship program, like leaders on here. You want people to come to your church, whatever that looks like. You want people to come to your small group or your Bible study. Be the kind of person that lives out the Bible with them, that walks them through the dark moment, that walks with them through the hard moment. And carries that, and be Jesus. Otherwise, what you have to sell can be put in a self-help book and marketed. Yep. Okay. But I was going to say discipleship is personal and intimate.
That's because I was thinking about that as we were talking about Man, most of discipleship is really just a matter of you looking at the people God has put with you and going, how do I serve them? How do I serve their life in a way that they grow?
Yeah.
That's it. And I don't know where we've gotten this idea in the American church or the modern church that it's about me getting up and doing my thing and whatever. And then, it's really their responsibility to grow. It's like, dude, I get it that they have a responsibility to grow, but I also have a responsibility to plant and water, and make sure they're getting nutrients and things like that. I do have a responsibility to those who have put that on me. And the thing is that that's where Jesus said, whoever wants to be the greatest must be the servant of all. It's like, if you want authority, the way that he originally designed life to work is that you gain authority by serving, but when sin came in, now you got all these people that we want to gain authority by power and control and manipulation and sounding super smart. But however you gain it, that's the way you have to maintain it.
Right. How did Jesus get authority? Wash their feet.
Yeah. You serve. As you serve, people give you authority. Put it this way. They're in a lot of places, a lot of neighborhoods in America, there are guys who like mow the lawns and shovel the driveways and whatever of widows and people who've been in the hospital and whatever. If everything would go downhill in America, that neighborhood would run over to that dude's house and be like, what do we do? And it's not that he said, I'm the one in authority in this neighborhood. It's because they know he takes care of the neighborhood.
Yeah. So good. You can spend your life preaching to people and tell them how they're dirty, or you can just wipe the dirt off their feet.
Yeah, like, come on.
That's what Jesus did. Look, let me tell you, here's the truth. Here's what most of discipleship looks like. Let me just play this out for you. This is what most of discipleship looks like. You can't say that. You can't say that. And then I say, I'm the pastor. I can say whatever I want. Oh, wait. Oh, that's supposed to be the other way. Oh.
Oh, that's gold. I totally bought into it.
You bought it. Hook, line, and stinker. So that really,
but it's like,
that's most of discipleship, though. You can't say that.
I watch there again. I have guys who still, when so much is thrown at them, they still have that, and whatever. And I'm like, if you knew where this guy was a year or a year and a half ago, you would see how good this guy is right now because of how far he's come, right? But people will be like, oh, but he freaked out at this person. And it's like, right. Because sometimes triggers still happen, And it's like, and I'm like, listen, if you're going to crush me because of that, you would crush Jesus because of his disciples. They walked with him for 3.5 years and were still jackwagons. So like, you had Peter being a racist, more or less. He wouldn't sit with the Gentiles. And that's after,
after Jesus.
Yeah, that's after Jesus. Paul has to correct him, So it's like, and yet he's healing people with his shadow.
He's insecure. He wants to be liked. He caves into the church demands because he still wants to be liked. Right.
Right. And the thing is I'm sitting there going, look, A, I'm not Jesus, and B, this guy's only walked with me for a year. So but he's miles ahead of where he started. And where it started was with him. And I think this is important because seeing how it works over a span of time, where he started was that he would be real quick to start something up with someone. And then I would hear about it and I'd have to be like, buddy, we got to have a talk, right? And he would be like, I'm not talking about it today. Like, maybe we'll talk tomorrow. And I said, no, we're talking about it today because you can't let the sun go down on your anger. And I'd tell him why. I'd tell him, you know what happens when you have conscious thoughts that are anger and hate-filled and whatever, and then you go to sleep and now it's in your subconscious. Now you're not even in control of it. It's digging down inside of you and whatever. And we'd get into the elevator to go find the person and talk. And I'd be like, we're going to go have a talk with this person. And and it was just like, we'd get down to the first floor to find the person, and he'd be like, how do you do that? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't even remember what I was mad about. And we haven't even found the person yet. So we find the person, you can just go.
Were you riding the elevator down or up?
Down.
Okay, so right, as they go down, so does their anger.
Yeah, that's right.
The elevator of anger management.
And so he goes, we find the person, and he's just like immediately like, I'm sorry, you know? And so that's where it started. But here's the deal. Then a month later or so, another thing happens. I go there and he's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to let you do this to me and that. He's not going to throw me under the bus. And I said, hey man, I said, have I ever thrown you under the bus? And he's like, well, no. And I said, then why do you think I'd be coming here now to throw you under the bus? And so I reminded him, I've always been here for you. I've never come against you. And so then he was really willing to just drop everything. We didn't even have to get in the elevator yet. So now all of a sudden he's immediately like, boom, he sees the guy and immediately walks over to him and says, hey man, I'm sorry. And so this guy has grown and grown and grown so much over about a year that now it's like he does a great job of guys who have issues with him. He goes, hey, we need to go into the chapel and have a one-on-one talk. And I'm like, what in the world, man? And he's like, well, there's only so many times you can sit with a Jedi mind trick master, and and he's like,
Ain't
eventually you just want to deal with it. So.
You are not angry anymore. Right. So Bonnie asked a great question here. What do you do when the person is in the same group they're trying to trigger you, whether they're leaders or whether they're not? So let me give you a little nugget that I gave a couple of weeks ago that I think has been profound in my life. The Bible talks about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, long suffering. I'm probably repeating those. Self-control. No one ever wants the self-control or the patience, right? But you have these 9 fruits of the Spirit. And every one of you would say this. You would say, I want peace. In fact, if you have a day off, you would say, I'm so glad I get to have peace. That's what you would say. I get to have peace today. Oh, I get to have some peace. Wouldn't you say, I get to have some joy? I get to have joy. This is a fruit. It's a feast. The fruit of the Spirit is feasts that we get to eat from. I get to have joy. I get to have peace. All of you hope you get to have love. I get to have love. How come we don't treat the get tos the same as the rest of the fruit? I get to be kind. Not I need to be kind. Not I have to be kind.
Come on.
I get to be kind. I get to be patient. I get to be in self-control. And so when you understand that the fruit of the Spirit is something that God gifts you with and feeds you with,
so
and
good.
just like I get to have peace, I get to have self-control, I get to be patient, I get to be of one mind because goodness is in me, because kindness is in me. I get to be kind. Your actions do not get to take my peace. And because I am feasting, you don't get to steal from my table. The Bible says in Psalm 23, it says he prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. What happens is when situations around you happen, you grab fruit off the table that was given to you and you hand it away to the enemy. And you say, you can eat my peace. You can have my joy. You can have love. And we give away. The enemy cannot steal the fruit on the table. He does not get to steal God's fruit. You give it away. Okay. The enemy couldn't pluck the fruit from the tree in the garden and stuff it down Eve's mouth. She had to pick it. She had to eat it. That's how it happened. So he doesn't get to steal God's fruit. So what happens is you give away your peace in situations like that. You give away your joy in situations like that. I promise if you are prone to panic attacks, the situation I dealt with in Belize would have sent you into one. All right. But in the process of that, I said, you don't get to have my peace. You don't get to have my joy. You don't get to control my love. I will be steady as a rock. I will defend my people because my love is towards them. My kindness is first towards my sheep. My goodness is first towards my sheep. My self-control, I didn't blow up and lose it. And, the three of them, they said to me, I'm so glad you were talking the whole time. I was terrified to speak. And I said, why? Were you scared it was going to go wrong? And they said, I was scared I was going to go wrong. I was scared that I was going to lose it and say a lot of choice things because I was so upset. And it was like, in the process of that, you don't get to take anything from me. You can do whatever you want to me, but what I give you is my choice. What you take is your choice, but I won't give you anything that belongs to me. You don't get my peace. You don't get my joy. I get to have peace. I get to have love. I get to have joy. So in situations like that, I make decisions. I stand up to bullies. I deal with it, but I will not allow them to have emotional control over me. And as far as I'm concerned, like, look, yes, PTSD is a real thing. It needs to be dealt with. And so please don't, I'm not diminishing the reality of that. I got into a bad wreck when I was 19 and I dealt with some of that. So I understand that. I'm not diminishing that. What I'm saying is if we change our mentality, maybe it wouldn't grab us as hard, where we start to say, you don't have the right to control me. And every time I replay terrible events in my head, or I replay them in pain, I'm allowing you to wound me again. And I refuse to allow someone access to hurt me over and over and over again. So I will not allow you to do that. And so when people follow me in my life and I say statements like that, they sound pastoral. That's real good preaching points. Like, that's not like, oh, write that down, right? But the reality is, when you watch me go through stress situations, and 10 minutes after the stressful situation, I'm like, what's up? Yeah, let's party. Like, let's have a good time now. Okay, guys, that's done with. Let's have a great time. And they're like, how are you just back to normal?
Yep.
And I'm like, because I never left normal. I turned up what I needed to turn up to deal with what I was dealing with. But most of it was just puffing my chest. I'm not angry. I'm not mad. I don't want to hurt anybody. You don't get to take my peace. I kept it all during the thing. I never lost the peace. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is this is that God wants to use you, but you need to be usable. All right. You need to be in a place. That doesn't mean all of you are perfect. All right. That's not what usable means. Usable doesn't mean you got it all together. God just needs to know he can send you to the fire and you won't come out scorched. There has to be a part of you that's willing to walk through the fire. We all say this: God, I want your will for my life. God's will is given to the willing.
Yeah.
God's will is given to the willing. Are you willing? But you need to take some fruit with you. So many people are walking the journey of discipleship and they have an empty basket. They didn't take any snacks with them. You got 9 snacks: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, right? All of these that are self-control, right? So I love, rather than patience, I love the old King James version, long suffering.
Long suffering. Yeah.
Long suffering. Forget patience. Long suffering.
Let me throw this in there, because guys wonder how, like, I'm so calm when I go through stuff. There is a thing that I use that now is just so normal to me that I don't even think about the fact that I'm doing it. But it's a thing called a manual journaling or a manual texting. And I'm like, man, a lot of the time when someone's going off on me, I'm having this conversation way more than I'm having this conversation. I'm talking to the Lord way more than I'm still paying attention to what's going on, but I'm asking the Lord questions. I'm being like, what's this dude's real issue? Let me see what he's really going through and whatever. But when it's hard, especially for traumatic experiences, a thing called a manual texting. And basically it's this: I start with thanking the Lord and waiting for him to, I go, thank you for being in this with me. And I wait for him to say, thank you for being in this with me. Like, I wait for him, but then I go through 5 things, listening for him to say, I see you, dealing with this guy being a jackwagon. I see you dealing with this guy, right? He's like, I see you, Justin, trying to keep your cool. I see you, Justin. And I see what's going on. I see the situation. Secondly, I hear you. I hear that you're calling the guy a jackwagon too, Justin. Like, I hear what your heart is saying. I hear that you're not like approaching it with love right now.
Right. When you look at them and you're like, if only I had a donkey's jawbone right now.
That's totally it. It's like, oh man, what I would do. No, but But
You
so
keep talking that way, you're the donkey's jawbone.
That's right. You're lucky you're that end. But I listened to him say, I see you in this situation. I hear what you're saying. I hear how you're speaking about this and everything, right? I hear how you feel about it. Thirdly is I understand. Like there is nothing we go through that the Lord doesn't understand. I understand being mocked and ridiculed. I understand leaders mocking me and trying to peg me and trying to put me in situations. Jesus understands that completely. He was put through it all the time, right? Fourthly is I'm glad to be here with you. You know what? There's nothing that you're doing. I would never be embarrassed to be with you. I'm totally cool about being here with you. I'm so glad to be with you. I would hate to think about you being in this alone. And fifth is I can do something about this. I can give you wisdom. I can give you peace. I can tell you things about them that makes you like be able to bridge the gap. And so and the deal is I want to keep listening to the Lord going through those things until I gain peace and joy about the situation. And then once I have peace and joy about the situation, I don't want to respond from my own thoughts ever again about it. I just want to lean on that. But so I see you, you listen to the Lord say, I see you, I hear you, I understand, I'm glad to be with you, and I can do something about this.
That hit my heart really hard. The fourth one there. I'm glad to be here with you through this.
Yeah.
That like almost tears me up. Like the idea that the Lord is glad to be there with us through our those moments that are hard and stressful. He's glad to shepherd us in those moments, to father us in those moments.
Embarrassed.
He's not embarrassed of us. He's not embarrassed that we don't get it right all the time. He's not ashamed of us like that.
Mm-mm.
I don't know who needed to hear that this morning, but like somebody needed to hear that God is not ashamed of your hard moments and the moments where you don't get it all right. And you're trying to figure out in stressful moments how to deal with looking like Christ. That very much reminds me of what I just went through in Belize and what I did in Kenya. Is that I was glad that my people were not there alone to go through that by themselves. I was very glad and thankful to God that I was with them so that they were not alone. I remember that feeling of going, man, I'm so glad I'm here right now. I'm just not going to let them be. I'm so glad that they have me through this and that I'm going to fight. And God, man, that if there's anything that kind of brings us back to what discipleship looks like, is you intentionally walking with people through their mess until they're a message and being glad to be there through the hard teachable moments of their life. If you can't walk with people individually through their hard moments, you are not discipling them. You're just a teacher. You're just a mentor, but you are not a discipler. Discipleship is personal.
It's not giving all the answers either.
No.
It's like most of the time it's like if I can't teach you how to figure it out, then I'm not really discipling you. And I'll tell you one of the real places that I sit in is when and that I love and that I think other people are sitting there going, how can you love this? But it's that whole I'm not embarrassed to be with you moment of like when I'm working with guys that I'm discipling and they're handling a moment and other people are like, aren't you going to tell him he needs to deal with it this way or that way? And I'm like, no, like he needs to figure out if this ends up badly, he needs to figure out, wow, that ended up badly, didn't it?
Right. And talk to them about why it ended badly later.
Yeah. It's but I need to let them walk through their situation.
Yeah. As a father, I did that. My middle one would get in fights with the other two quite a bit. And there's many times where I would hear my younger one, Caleb, he would go and initiate a conversation and they'd be fighting about what happened. And initially, like Eli didn't give a rip at all that he had upset his brother. It was like, so I don't care. Like, he didn't care at all. And Caleb would just keep going. And then Eli would mouth off to him or something. And I would go in the hallway and I would not come in and say, that's wrong. Apologize to your brother. Say you're sorry. I never did that because I'm like, that's surface. It doesn't teach them anything. And so I'd listen to them so that later on I could give them tools to communicate better. But normally what would happen is they kind of go off on each other for a minute or two. And then sure enough, Caleb would keep telling him how he's being a mean brother and he doesn't want to hang out with him and he's not nice and does he really want to be that person? And Eli would get very quiet and then all of a sudden I would hear Eli start crying. And then Eli would go, I don't want to be like that. I just got upset. I was just being defensive. I don't want to be mean. And like they would resolve it on their own. And I would be able to come back later and say, good job. Jesus did the same thing. Remember when the disciples were actually fighting and saying, who's going to be the greatest in heaven? Do you know what Jesus's reply to that was? Nothing. He said nothing. Why? Because he was teaching him a lesson. Maybe he was like, I'm not getting in this one. Well, but it's only the second time that he says something. He finally, when they get into it again, he's like, okay, clearly the first conversation, you didn't learn anything. So now I got to step in. But he gave them an opportunity to see how they would correct those conversations themselves because he had to give them space to fail. So if he's going to give you space to fail, he's not offended by your failure.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to this. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I can only think of one place that he really hard corrects a disciple, and that's Peter telling him he's not going to go to the cross. It's like, no, you are not going to the cross. It's like, yeah, I am doing what I was called here to do. Get out of my way, Satan, right? It's like, get behind me, Satan. Right. Yeah. That's the one time that you see like a hard correct. It's like the one thing you will not do is stand in the way of what I'm called to go do. Right.
Oh yeah. Jesus makes hard corrections. Yeah.
And, but apart from that, what we typically see is him do a soft correct. So like the thing is the guys all come back from casting out demons and all that kind of stuff from these towns. They're like, the demons even submit in your name and all that kind of stuff. Right. And he goes, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. And then I don't have my Bible on me.
What? Two dudes and a Bible.
I left it upstairs because I was doing my devotions this morning.
Two dudes and a Bible. I guess we don't have to both have one because then it's two dudes and two Bibles.
But then he says, yeah, let's read that off. I think it's Luke 10:18 is where it starts.
You have him being correction. So the point is why he's looking for that is just what it's important to do with discipleship means that you're in it with the person to the point you can hear where they need to grow. It's not just a prepared message to a crowd. Right. You have to know where they're at. And unless there's an opportunity for them to communicate and fail, you'll never find out where you can help them grow.
So check this out, because again, it's like we rarely see him hard correct. He does these redirects though. And I'm going to say this, it's like, because it's like, it's the whole, can we call down fire from heaven? And he's like, you will call fire down from heaven, right? But he's basically like, you will, but in a different way, right? He redirects and stuff. So the 72 returned with joy. So this is Luke 10:17 is where I'm starting. The 72 returned with joy and said, Lord, even the demons submit to us in your name. He replied, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. However, do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. So what Jesus sees them doing is they come back and they're all excited that we were casting out demons and all this stuff, right? We saw all this stuff happen. He was seeing that they were excited about their exploits of the faith. And the problem with that is when we are too excited and too focused on the exploits of the faith, well, what happens if I don't get the time that the demon doesn't come out? What happens when I get the prophetic word wrong or the healing doesn't happen? Then all of a sudden, everything from me feels like it's drained. Like, God, are you still with me? And things like that, right? And so what he does is he refocuses them. He redirects their vision onto something that's an eternal, something that can't be taken away, right? So he says, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. So he relates to them, right? I saw Satan fall like demons submit in my name. Yes, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Like, I totally get you. It's awesome, right? And then he's like, I've given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and overcome the power of the enemy, and nothing will harm you. So everything you have, just remember where that came from. I've given you power, right? Or I've given you authority. And then he says, however, do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. So or the Lamb's book of life. And so the point is he redirects them onto what's eternal and constant, and not something that's temporal and sometimes might be there and sometimes isn't there.
So a key of discipleship is to constantly keep pointing people to the eternal and not the temporal, is to get them to take their eyes off the situation and give them the heavenly principle that remains past the situation. Totally. So we don't want to be situational people. How do we deal with this situation? How do we deal with that one? We want to be heavenly minded so that each situation, unique as it is, still has the same principle behind it. So when I disciple people, that's gold right there. I don't know if you guys have studied discipleship before, but I've never read that anywhere. That's gold right there, what Justin just said. That's powerful, is to constantly keep people heavenly minded when they have earthly problems. And that's brilliant. And Jesus makes the claims like, even the demons submit to you. He's like, not only did the demons submit to me, but I was there when Satan fell like lightning. I'm the reason he fell like lightning. He's like, I want to put that like in the way I would have said it in my personality. People like, the demons even submit to you. He's like, you like that one. You should have seen when I kicked the snot out of Satan. Dude, that dude fell like lightning. That, you guys should have seen that. You guys should have seen that. I was like, oh, dude, but it was amazing. Right. I would have told that story. And it's honestly what it kind of feels like. He's like, I was there. I saw Satan fall like lightning.
Well, and that's the thing is it's the truth is that getting focused on casting out demons is a small mind. You're getting them focused on there's more. It's not just that, there's more. And so it keeps them going, what? And when they realize that there's more, they go, casting out demons, small thing. I got that handled, because that's a small thing. You know what I mean?
Can you make Satan fall like lightning? No, not yet. Then keep going.
Keep going.
Right? Keep going. Level 2, level 3, level 4. That probably is the biggest thing with discipleship, is never allowing people to be convinced they've arrived.
Yeah, come on.
I haven't arrived. You haven't arrived. I'll take a step, and then I'll teach you to take a step. Keep people pressing forward. You cannot disciple someone that's not correctable. Okay. And the reason why you can't disciple someone that's not correctable is because an uncorrectable person thinks they've already arrived, which means they will always stay at a lower level. Before I ever decide to disciple someone, I see how they handle me getting on to them about something. If they'll let me correct them, that's someone I can take them to the more. I can take them to a higher peak. I can teach them to do greater things because they want to be greater people. People that are uncorrectable want to feel greater without ever becoming greater. Okay. And so correction will lead you to the revelation that there's more. So never think you're there. That's it, right? I can cast out demons, but can you cast Satan out like lightning? Well, no, that's not a diss. It's not a degrade. It's to say, keep climbing.
Yeah. If you are in a place where you feel like I'm always looking like the dude, right? I'm always looking like the guy. It's like, well, then you need to step into some heavier things where sometimes you don't look like the guy, because that's the only way you're going to grow. Every businessman will tell you, you only really learn by failing a lot of times. It's like, that's the biggest thing. I've been watching a lot of old fighters talk about what it takes, and everything. And they talk about certain fighters that gave up after they were knocked out once. And they're like, it's really embarrassing to get knocked out. And they're like, here, this guy was a champion. Once he got knocked out, he didn't want to fight anymore. Why? He just couldn't handle the embarrassment of doing it. And they're like, the reason why people look at us like we're legends is because we kept going. Like we got knocked out more times, but we kept going. And that's the thing, is you got to keep pressing into these different places. So it's like, you know what? Okay. Like for me, one of the things is when I hear people talk about so-and-so has a demon, I'm like, then go get that thing. Don't tell me about it. Go get that thing. I never saw Jesus say, hey, that guy has a demon. It's like, then go get it.
I have a rule on my ministry team that if you see someone that needs ministry, unless I've told you to sit down and not do anything right now, but if you come across someone who needs ministry in that capacity, don't come tell me, hey, this person over here needs some deliverance. This person needs some inner healing. You better be the one that goes and tries first. If you come get me and say, hey, I've been praying for them for 10 minutes and this thing won't come out, or I'm not getting to it, or what, can you help? Yes, now I will come partner with you, or I will come help you after the fact. But Jesus sent them out. They were trained. They spent time with him, and then they were sent, and then he could correct what they did. That's how I teach people to do everything. Let me show you. Let me demonstrate. Let me tell you. Let me demonstrate it. Now let me watch you do it. Now you go do it, and I'll tell you what you did wrong.
Yeah,
that's my model for teaching anybody anything, is I watch you do it, then I let you do it, and then I correct what I see wrong. And that's the model that Jesus kind of does with them. They come back and they report to him, and he starts to educate them further now that they're beginning to take ownership of their faith. Discipleship means giving people ownership.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like. So I hope this is, I don't want us to go too much longer. You can give some closing nuggets on that, but I hope this has been a great conversation on discipleship for you guys.
Well, I was going to say, one of the plagues we have in the church today is that we'd rather look right than be bold.
Oof.
And that's that's one of the problems. And that's why it's important to keep in discipleship. It's like, personally, I want to keep pushing in. I'm saying, me being discipled, I want to keep leaning into things that seem hard. I don't want to just give up on those things and say, well, you know what, but I look good. I do well over here, so this must be my strength, so I'm not going to do that thing. It's like, no, I'm going to keep pushing into things that, and really what I'm pushing into is to continually look like how Christ looked. You know what? That time over there, that guy said something about me and I felt the need to defend myself. But you know what? My Lord went to the cross like a lamb to the slaughter. He didn't feel the need to defend himself, even when he was falsely accused and things like that. So it's like, I want to keep looking more and more and more like Jesus. And I want to push myself into positions that test me, like, but can you do it in this situation? And can you do it in this situation? And that's what we're doing for other people. Again, we're looking for places where most people need a couple of things. They need to be told, yeah, go do it. And then they need some encouragement while they do it. That's what most people need. They want to go do stuff. They want to learn, but they feel alone in it, and they feel like they need permission to go do it. So really what we're doing a lot of times in discipleship is saying, yeah, go do it. And then we're saying, I'm here with you while you do it. That's really it.
Yeah, it's good. So that's great conversation on discipleship. Digging in with people. Like, look, if you're just tuning in towards the back half of this, I would really strongly encourage you to go back and listen to it, because there's some nuggets in here and gold in here, what it looks like to raise people up, to be a disciple, to disciple others. Some of you may say, well, I'm not ready to disciple anybody else, but now you know what it looks like to be discipled. And now you know what to ask for. You know what to go to somebody that is a spiritual influence in your life and say, this is what it looks like for you to disciple me. Will you offer this to me? So whichever phase you're in, take that and run with it and let yourself grow at a faster pace. Don't take 10 years to get there. Don't run. Don't walk your race you're supposed to run. Okay.
Come on.
Some of you are dragging all your baggage trying to get across a finish line, you got a backpack full of baggage. All right. Let discipleship pull that stuff off of you so that you can run your race well. Okay. That's good right there. We are two dudes and a Bible. This is what we do. We come on here lighthearted, but serious, right? 1 minute we're making you laugh, and the next you're like, dang, now I got to reconfigure my whole life. And I appreciate that very much that you guys tune in. Remember, now, if you guys want to see me live, there's several places I'm actually going to be at in January. Next week, I'm headed to Mississippi, and then immediately after that, I go to Inglewood, Florida. Then I go to Jacksonville, Florida, and then I actually go back to Mississippi the following week. So there's 2 opportunities on, I think it's a Wednesday night, next Wednesday and the Wednesday after, to be in Mississippi, and then Inglewood, Florida, and Jacksonville, Florida. And then I'll actually be coming back to Florida. And then we're still working out the exact dates for when I'll be in Illinois. I put out a post, but that changed just a little bit because apparently it's really cold in Illinois right now too.
I was just going to say, if you go far enough north, you can learn to walk on water.
You can learn to walk. Okay, so when I came to South Dakota the next time, I tell you when I was coming to South Dakota. I would tell you when I'm coming to South Dakota next, but Justin keeps going. We'll see. So we're trying to figure it out. So but the last time I went to South Dakota, there was a giant mound of snow at the Airbnb. And me and one of the other guys, because this is what discipleship looks like. I'm like, you want to dive in the snow? I was like, let's dive in the snow at the same time, and jumped into this 5-foot mound of snow together in our shorts, right? And he's like, you're not going to do it. So I'm like, on the count of 3, we'll both jump. And he goes, no, you're not going to do it. You're not actually going to do it. I said, I don't lie. You can trust me. And so as a pastor, that's really important that I don't punk him. Okay. So I don't lie. You can trust me. So on the count of 3, we both just Superman dove. And I don't care if he would have done it. He could have punked me and I'd have been fine. I keep my word. But there's a lot of discipleship in that. Is if you're going to disciple somebody, you better keep your word. All right. Even when it's going to cost you a snow plow to the face. Okay. Because it turns out that that I have not been in enough snow lately, that it just didn't occur to me that we should probably check the density of the snow, because this is a snow that's been shoveled together. So this was not fluffy snow. This was sledgehammer snow, and we face planted straight into a brick of snow. So we were cold and we got punched in the face. So it was fantastic. But you know what? Me and him both laughed. And today he's closer to me because I just don't preach good sermons, but I live life with him and I laugh life with him. The people you are discipling, you have to learn how to enjoy life with at the same time. It's important that you stay in a position of leadership over them. Okay. So last little nugget that I think is valuable for both of you. When people that I'm a discipler of, I don't put them in the category of friend. Okay. They are not friend. And what do I mean by that? Do I mean I don't love them? I absolutely love them. My kids are not my friends. I'm their father. They do not want to trade the status of son to being the status of friend. Friends don't get an inheritance. Sons do. My sons have an inheritance that friends will never get. Make sure you understand the difference in your relationship. They are not friends. These are people I love and I disciple and I raise up. Friends have an equal status, right? It means you say something to me and it's like, you're just my friend, whatever. You know, like I could take your advice. I could not take your advice. But a mentor has a position of authority in your life where you're listening to them regularly. I don't want to diminish my status as a mentor, as a discipler, as a father figure to you by reducing it down to friendship. And so, but that does not mean, when I say that doesn't mean I don't do life with you and I don't love you and I don't play and have a good time and enjoy our company. And so what happens is that some people, they spend all of their discipling time just being buddies and they lose authority in that person's ear. And so that person no longer listens or respects what they have to say because they're just friends and they're kind of here. Or the other happens where they're so serious, they're so fatherly all the time, they have no relationship, that person doesn't feel cared for and loved on an intimate level. And so they lose authority that way as well. And that person can actually walk away from you quickly because there's not really a bond. There's just you telling them what to do, and that's the end of it. So you need a closer relationship with that person in right perspective, which means I do life with my people. We play together just as much as we pray together.
Yeah.
And we enjoy our life together. We go out and do things. So when you're discipling someone, live life, show them the stressful situations, but show them what it looks like to live as Christ loves, to love, to laugh, to lean into life. Do that and you'll have a better relationship. But make sure the people that you're discipling, you keep the right level of relationship. My kids want to stay my sons.
Yeah.
It would be dangerous to change that relationship status. So that's my last bit for today. Come see me in one of those places. I post on my page. If you're in Florida or Mississippi, come out and see me live. And one day, maybe eventually, you'll see me when the snow melts. That's okay. If you book me now, I'm going to tell you straight no. You told me it was -40. I'm canceling on you. Originally, we were talking about me going in February, and I'm like, you hate me.
Well, Ryan Johnson flat up told me, do not do it when it's cold. Later on, he goes, I actually would if you told me to. But, like. No, it's -40. No. I do want to do that thing where you soak the pants in water and then throw them out the floor and see if by the time they land, they're solid frozen. I do want to do that. I would do that with you. Or I say we both jump out of the shower and we run outside and we wrestle and we see who taps out first from cold, not from skill. I will say there's something because I've always been someone who I'm just like, look, I'm only going from point A to point B, or I'm only doing this much, whatever. So I just throw on a coat and some gloves and do my thing or whatever. There is something magical about actually putting on the right amount of clothing that you can be out in that stuff for a long time and you don't even feel it. Like it's just because you know that it's that cold. You can tell that it is, but you're not feeling it. And there's something magical about doing that.
I can go outside in that degree. I mean, I could do that. I would put around me. I would just put around me a house, and I would be fine in it. I'd be fine in it. Yeah. Just a house. All right. So guys, we love you. We'll be back next Tuesday with 2 men and 2 dudes in a Bible, 2 men, 2.5 men, 2.5 Bibles. We'll have more Bibles, less men, more men, less Bibles. We're not sure. What do we call it when we bring a guest on? Like if we have Ben Williams on here, he's hilarious. If we bring Ben Williams on, do we call it 3 dudes in a Bible?
I was going to say we have to call it 3 dudes in a Bible because if we call it 3 men in a Bible, it sounds like a movie.
Oh yeah, and a baby. That kind of works. We could still be 2 dudes in a Bible and a bro.
Who's Tom Selleck? That's always a question.
I would be because I watched a movie in the same theater as him one time, so that counts. He was in front of us 3 rows, so it counts. So I am Tom Selleck. All right. Love you guys. And I hope that you have a blessed rest of your day. And if nobody's told you, I love you. God loves you. Shalom. I have to